so we're ready to go. All right, we're live now. All right, welcome. Bonjour tout le monde. Today, June 9th, 2021, we're having our Economic Development Advisory Committee. So we've been off for a little while. Our last meeting was in February of 2020, just before COVID started. So we've just started to get all those committees back on par. So here we are today with the, I believe the last of the four that's we're back on par now. So anyway, welcome to everybody. So we're gonna get right onto it. So we're gonna do call to order, I guess. I guess, I don't know, maybe everybody can just state their name, I guess. Start with you, Giselle, because you're on top of my screen.
Oh, Giselle Pajot, Mayor.
Randy. We got
I'm
Randy.
here.
Yep. We've got Claude.
Hi there,
Yep.
it's Vic.
We've got Renee.
Hi.
And we've
Ward
got Chris. Yes. And Chris.
Hello.
And Monique.
Hello, Monique Ababiribi.
And we have Susan as one of our guests. And then we've got Mark.
Hi, everyone.
And we've got Sebastien also, who's we can see the name, but not the video. So, all right.
Just a voice this afternoon. Good to see everyone.
Right. That's okay. All right. Adoption of the agenda. Anybody have anything to add to the agenda or change? No. Have a mover for the agenda then. Renee. Second by Monique. Everybody in favor? Aye. Unanimous. All right. Okay, so we're going to start with the first, the adoption of the minutes from the last meeting, which was February 5th, 2020. I know it's been a long while, so I'm not sure if anybody has read them or if everybody has read them. I'm assuming everybody has read them, I'm trying to say. Any questions? No, we'll just get a mover then to accept those minutes.
Move, Chris Twirl.
Chris, and seconded by Randy. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. All right, we're going to get right on to it. So first thing on the agenda, so items of discussion. So,
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Yes.
You skipped number 2, sir. You skipped item number 2.
Yes, I sure did. Yep. See, I was too anxious to get to 3. So anybody have any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Having none? All right, thank you. Okay, back to number 4. So today we have Susan Church from Blue Sky Net, who's going to give us a little bit of an update about how projects are developing in the what's the high-speed world of internet and broadband and that, and see where we're at. And we've had some applications over the last little while, and get an update. So Susan.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me today. It's awesome to be able to see you. It's actually made it easier for us to get to know all of our municipal friends across the area that we work in. Because of Zoom, we're able to have more meetings. So for us, we're kind of happy to be able to get to see you. And so I appreciate the offer to attend with you today. I do have a lot to tell you, and it's not necessarily, it's very frustrating news, I guess is probably the best way to start. And I like to let people know what's coming. So I don't want to say that lots of good news is coming. I thought I'd start with the frustrating part first. So let me just refresh your memory in terms of what kind of funding has been made available to those of us who have been seeking to narrow the digital divide. As you may recall, in both January and February of 2021, the final applications were due for the Universal Broadband Fund, which is the federal government's response to broadband needs, and the ICON program, which is the provincial government's response. And smushed in between those two was a little element called rapid response, which was part of the Universal Broadband Fund. And so Blue Sky Net, working with all of our municipal partners across the area that we work in, had developed 3 different regional projects. One that is what we call Sudbury East, West Nipissing, and that includes areas from North Bay west to Sudbury, includes areas in West Nipissing, St. Charles, French River, most of the areas around Greater Sudbury. And then there were 2 other large regional projects, one North Bay South and one North Bay Southeast. And so the Southeast ones included Mattawa and East Ferris, Bonfield, that area. And the other North Bay South to Almaguin included more of the Almaguin area. So those were the 3 big regional projects. And we submitted applications in both the Universal Broadband Fund and the ICON Fund. We also submitted 3 rapid response applications, and those applications were deemed quick, fast, get in, get out, easy peasy, no issues, no big construction, something that could be done by November. And so we submitted one for Wanapitei First Nation. We submitted one for East Ferris, a little fiber build in East Ferris. One in Redbridge, Ontario, which was just the construction of 2 small towers, and one for the more rural areas of St. Charles. And we received positive response for 3 of those. Wanapitei First Nation, East Ferris, and Redbridge were approved. And we're in the process of working with NetSpectrum to do those. So that brings us to today. What's been going on in the world of broadband funding? Well, none of the programs from the province were announced. And the reason that they weren't announced is that, if you recall from the provincial budget, an additional $2.8 million $2.8 billion in funding was approved in the most recent provincial budget. The most recent federal budget included $1.8 billion to add to the existing broadband pot. So the province and the federal government had all this new additional money, and they had to figure out what they were going to do, because it became apparent that they needed to work together at the same time or we weren't going anywhere. Because each of the Universal Broadband Fund and the ICON programs needed each level of government to participate in, and then of course the vendor or the ISP. So going back now about 6 weeks, I was asked to participate with a provincial working group to develop the guidelines that would go with Bill 257. Bill 257 has been enacted into law. It's the second fastest piece of legislation that's ever made its way through the Ontario legislature. And what we were tasked to do, this group of us, which included CEOs from Bell, CEOs from Rogers, from Hydro, from all sorts of places, we were tasked to develop the guideline to go with the bill. So we met every Tuesday and Thursday morning for the last 6 weeks. It became apparent to me in about the second meeting, there was only myself and one other person from Northern Ontario there. And their goal was to have, they actually call it the Building Broadband Faster Act. That's what Bill 257 is, the Ontario bill. And so this group was to meet and try and set all the guidelines to allow for broadband projects to be done faster, meaning easier ways for ISPs to do pole attachments, easier ways to find out what fiber is underground, easier and faster ways for ISPs to work with municipalities and vice versa, so that everybody was on the same page in order to build new broadband projects. Only recently through those meetings did it become apparent what was happening. The federal government is giving the province all their money. So just like the transit system in Ontario, where the federal government gave all their funds to the Ontario government to build transit, highways, streets, bridges, they're doing the same thing with broadband. Very shortly, you will hear announcements for a number of projects that were approved before this illustrious group got going. And there will be some, I don't know if ours is part of it. I'm hearing some very positive things, but I don't want to get your hopes up for French River. But I have heard rumblings about our project for Sudbury East, which includes French River, of course. But what's very concerning to me, and it's very concerning to Mark Serre, he and I speak just about every second day on the phone. We've gone to the local MP here for Nipissing District, Anthony Rhoda. They in turn are speaking with all of their Northern caucus about this issue. And I've met with Minister Scott's Chief of Council, the Provincial Minister of Scott, the Provincial Minister of Infrastructure, to ask them, why has Northern Ontario been left out of these discussions? There's not one Indigenous representative at this table. And it's a very frustrating situation because they believe, they being the Ministry of Infrastructure, who's given Infrastructure Ontario the job of running the broadband program. They've said to them, there are 700,000 households that get less than 50 by 10 megabit service. By 2025, we want all of those to receive 50 by 10 service, and 140,000 of them are from Northern Ontario. So that would suggest that they plan about 20% of the funds to go to Northern Ontario, but that's not the way it's been discussed. As I say, there's myself and one other person there from Northern Ontario, and we should have at least had 20% of the people at the table. So there's 47 people and me and another person from ViaNet, actually from one of the ISPs. What I think they're planning on doing is it's going to be all the large telcos that are going to, like Bell or Rogers, that are going to plan fiber all over, which we know is very difficult to do in Northern Ontario. They will take the low-hanging fruit of the larger urban parts of municipalities. And once again, our rural ratepayers are going to be left out. And it's of great concern. I'm going to stop there because I'm sure you have questions that I may or may not have answers to, but I can tell you that right now, this is a very concerning situation.
If I may, Susan, can you just refresh our memory about exactly what our application was and what it included? So I believe, if I recall correctly, it was a larger span as opposed to just the French River representation, correct?
Oh, of course, yes. It included, as I say, Greater Sudbury, St. Charles, French River, all of the areas that were still needing to be covered in French River, Wahnapitae First Nation, but now that it's received funding through Rapid Response, we'll rescope the application and include Doquis. Doquis had chosen not to participate with us. They had decided to go with another vendor. They've now realized that that was an error because the vendor they decided to go with on their own has proven to be not very good. So they would like to rejoin our group. I don't know. We have to find out first whether we're actually approved. From there, there was parts of Nipissing 10 First Nation and pretty much all the areas west of North Bay.
So would there be a chance that our application would be only funded in part? They would pick and choose who would actually receive it, or is it all or none type of an application?
It's all or none. Now, the way the new funding is going to work, after they announce, and I'm understanding there's about 70 applications that are being announced in the next 2 weeks, somewhere in the next 2 weeks. After that happens, the Ontario government, through Infrastructure Ontario, is going to look at what's left, and they're going to say, we want a project here. We want a project here. And they're going to invite an auction type of situation where they will invite ISPs to be able to bid on what they would do to fill in those areas. Alongside that is this Bill 257, which requires municipalities and ISPs and electrical authority and utility companies in general to abide by certain laws. And that's what they're figuring out right now. And that's been my other concern, because municipalities will, for example, have to respond to an ISP or a telco request within X number of days. And if they don't, there could be a penalty. I mean, it's a very stringent law that has not really had any consultation. It just happened. And so as I was talking with Mark Gagnon the other day, it's like, you know, that has to be addressed because there's been no representation. I also sit on the AMO table for the broadband working group, and they have been quite distressed that they have not been part of this situation. So there's big changes coming. I hope that answered your question as best I could, Richard.
Any other questions? Okay, Mark?
Just on that note, for your information, Mr. Chair, and the rest of the committee, in cooperation with Susan, we did submit a request for delegation with the Ministry of Infrastructure for the AMO conference. And Susan has also volunteered to help us out if we do get the delegation and participate in the delegation to bring these issues forward in terms of broadband for rural Northern Ontario.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So I was going to talk about the delegation. So, I mean, yeah, that'd be a good way of following up for sure. So Susan, from your perspective, is there any other way or strategies that we should implement to put any pressure to, I mean, you know, if we put any, it doesn't mean that it's gonna pan out, but it's not gonna hurt. So do you have any suggestions?
I do. When is the AMO conference again?
August.
Yeah. By then, the unfortunate thing is it'll be a fait accompli. As I'm now learning, on June the 28th, there is going to be and I'm going to send, Mark, I'm going to send you the invitation. There's going to be a meeting where the results of the work of this working table are going to be revealed. And there will be a 2-week consultation period. And Mark, did I send you the summary for Bill 257?
No, you haven't. I went and did a little bit of research on the internet, but if you could send me the summary, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And that link for the 28th certainly as well, please.
Exactly, because they've made it such a short window that I would suggest once you see the release of that information, if you can respond to that, that would be excellent.
So
I don't know how they're going to make people know about it. I mean, I'm just sending this link around to as many people as I can.
So the June 28th, the announcement is what specifically? So what's going to be?
So this working table that has been putting together the guidelines for Bill 257, it will be a review of that work. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
Richard, I just one little point.
Yes, go ahead.
And maybe I don't have all the information, but I noticed there was a an initial build here in town there, and someone, I think it's Reachcast, that put up a base in the beginning of a tower and seems to have stalled there. So I don't know if that's all tied into this process. Can you shed any light on that?
I can't. There's a couple of different operators that have been trying to do some different things. That I don't know about that one. So I don't know if anyone else has any information about it, but I don't.
I believe the one that you're referring to, Claude, is the one that's downtown in Wellville.
Yeah.
Behind the Home Hardware on the property.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I believe it's a one-off project.
Okay.
And I was talking to Claude a little while ago, and he said it was supposed to be a go. I think it was held up somehow. I'm not too sure exactly for what reason, but it's not going to be reaching, like, from what I understand, it's not a very high speed type. I mean, it'll help, but it's not going to be the issue solver for sure for the entire municipality. It'll be more of a close knit type. I believe the radius was, if I recall correctly, 6-7 kilometers in that range. So,
And there's been a lot. Oh, go ahead.
No, I had a quick chat with the vendor there way back, and he did mention that in terms of the footprint, it was line of sight, obviously, but he did promise 20 up and 20 down. So, I mean, that's for me, that's high speed there, but the thing just never got off the ground, and I was just wondering why it was stalled and if there was any reason for that.
I'll find out, actually.
Thank you.
I think there's been a couple of sort of smaller operators that have been trying to infill various places. And, you know, it seems like a fairly simple thing to do from the outside, but sometimes when you get going, that's when you realize, like right now, one of the big problems is that they've changed the licensing spectrum. And whereby before you could use 3500 spectrum, now the CRTC has said that no longer will that be available to smaller ISPs, and that is going to be saved for 5G, which is great if you live in Toronto, you know. And I think that's my point, is that Northern Ontario is very much being carved out of this process. And I've never seen it so overtly carved out as it is right now. I mean, there's no regard being paid. And you know, we've got two different political stripes at play here. It's not just, you know, the Conservative government, or it's both. It's everybody is forgetting about Northern Ontario right now. And I know that it's we just have to make our voices heard. And so hearing from municipalities such as French River will have an impact, because they're not hearing from anybody because nobody knows any of this is going on. You know, I think that's the biggest thing. So I will send that link to you, Mark, and I will send you a summary, and feel free to share it with your council, because it's an open invitation. And if you're interested to see what's going on and to hear what's going on, I encourage you to participate. It's 9:30 on June the 28th.
All right, thank you. Renee, I know you had a question.
Oh, I don't know if it's a question or more of a comment. You were saying that they're looking to have everybody at 50, I guess, gigabytes. I'm not really don't know much about the broadband world, but I do, like, I guess that's assuming. But our issues here are many of our homes in all our side roads and all that don't even have internet, period, right now. So even if you give us in town 50 gigabytes, what good is that if they can't even log on to anything? You know, and I think that is one of the biggest issues out here. I mean,
that's exactly
forget about giving us high speed, just give everybody internet is, I think, the main thing right now that we need to be looking at, because
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, once you can offer everybody and any access to internet, then we could look at, you know, putting up the speeds. But until then, I don't think it's really fair that, you know, us here in the village, we have high speed, but then, you know, don't drive down O'Keefe because you ain't getting nothing, you know,
and you know,
or any side roads.
That's exactly it. That is why this particular thing that the Ontario government is doing is going to be so bad for Northern Ontario. They've got it in their head that somehow they think it's easy to just run fiber everywhere.
It
It's
doesn't
not.
work.
And when it's $80,000 per kilometer to put fiber in, when you have two farmers that live down a side road, I guarantee you Bell's not going to spend that kind of money to service two farmers. They're not. And that's why everyone is being so left out in Northern Ontario, because they're going to give it to the large telcos who are going to come in and take the low hanging fruit from the villages, from, you know, the places that are more condensed. But once again, the smaller ISP who has brought you service thus far, their business case is going to get blown to hell, because now they've got Bell coming in and rubbing fiber downtown, and no longer will a business case exist for a smaller ISP who's at least trying to deliver 20 by 5, or, you know. And you know what? Honestly, people are so hung up that they need 50 by 10. Here's the thing, you can do a lot. You can do just about everything you want. And I know, because all my staff are on small little services where they get 10 by 5, you know. Like, we're so hung up on this 50 by 10 that you're absolutely right, madam. They're not seeing the bigger picture, which is the whole community. So I think that's our goal, is to try and make sense of these people, you know, like to understand that this is, if you're going to run a program, it's got to be for everybody.
Perhaps the next, their next conference should be in Northern Ontario at where they don't have any access to internet. And then they would know how we feel.
I also wanted to tell you about one thing that would be helpful, and anyone who talks to me always hears me say the same thing, that is getting your citizens to run speed tests. Please, please, please go to connectednorth.ca, and in your municipal bulletins as an economic development initiative, have people take those speed tests, because that speed test that you take, and by the way, there's an amazing new map that we've just launched. It shows where everybody gets access, you can make reports, you can do all sorts of things with it. But what's really important is that the funders look at those speed tests, because we will say there's an area that's not eligible, or they will, and when they're looking at funding, and it's like, we know that people don't have those speeds. But for some reason, an ISP has told them, and let's face it, ISPs are not always truthful. I mean, they don't want people coming into their territory, if you will, right? So they will let ISED believe that they get 50 by 10 service. But then you start seeing all the speed tests from the people that actually live in your community, and it clearly shows the lack of high speed that you have. So it's really critical to do an initiative where you can get people to take the speed test. And it's so easy, they just go there. It tells you right there. Those speed tests are the same ones that the ISED people look at, the Industry, Science and Economic Development people. It's the same people, Ministry of Infrastructure, the same test. And they use those tests when they're adjudicating applications. So I do encourage you. We ran one of these campaigns, if you will, in Sudbury, and there were over close to 2,000 people took speed tests. And it really tells a picture, because you can see exactly what people's speeds are. So we can help you do that. Like, if you would like to have, like, I don't know, your social media, if you would like us to prepare some templates for you to use on social media, I'll have Jerry in my office send those to you, Mark, and you can send them around to people that may want to do a speed test campaign.
Would there be any benefit in getting that speed test done in the next little while and using those numbers moving forward?
Absolutely.
In a short period of time?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
absolutely.
Then
and if you go on the map, Richard, you'll see there's a little speed test dial thing. In fact, do you have a minute? If we share the screen, I can show it to you.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, let me just pull you up here. Oh no, where'd you go? Share screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So this is where the map is. I'll show you the map first so you can get an idea. So we've done this for all of Ontario. And obviously, I mean, I know it looks like an election map, it isn't. But you can see down in Southern Ontario, the blue is, if you look at the gauge over on the left-hand side, the blue color is very, very good high-speed internet, and the red is really bad. So obviously, as you would expect, Northern Ontario has really bad internet. Let's just click in a little further into.
It almost looks like the political color scheme.
It does. It does. Whoops. Okay. So there's all sorts of information that you can get from this map. And right now we're looking at the community of French River. And the population is 2,662. There's 2,108 dwellings. For the most part, everyone has LTE availability at 100%, but there are 167 households that don't get LTE. 0% of your dwellings get greater than 50 megabits per second down. And you're in your greatest percentage of your population between 6 and 49 megabits per second is like 84%. And you have 16% that have less than 6 megabits down. This information comes from directly from ISED data. So we've combined a number of things. They use pseudo households. The hexagon mapping is gone, thankfully. This can take you right down to the actual level. When you go even further down, everyone's probably getting seasick. This then breaks it down into neighborhoods. Like, for example, if you click over here near, I guess on the road to Albin there, 100% of your dwellings have less than 49 megabits, of course. We know we're going to see that. The other thing that you can do with this information is it tells you who, whoops, there's no, go to Noel. Okay, if you go over here, it tells you who provides service. So when you have new people coming to town, or if you have developers looking for information about what your speeds are and what kind of information is available, you can direct them to this map, and they can get a lot of information. You can make all sorts of reports. For example, in French River 13, what's in French River, there's your information set out in an Excel format. But let's look at those speed tests we were talking about. It's a little gauge here, a little gas gauge. These results have been collected since 2018. And you will see in the French River area, we're just gonna take it back a little bit. There, if you click on that speed test, it tells you that there were 4 speed tests taken in this particular area, and the average download speed in this cluster is 2.0. This one over here is baby blue one. There were 3 tests taken, and of those 3 tests, the average speed is 34.8. So you can see what this does. This is what the funders look at when they're deciding eligibility. Clearly, your community is in need of service, and it's demonstrated pretty well. What's this one up here? What do we got? There were 2 speed tests. In that area, they had 22.4. Where's my cottage? The cottage is somewhere in here on Trout Lake. Where'd Trout Lake go? I can't find it. Anyway, you would expect to see these areas that are all red to have red dots because people are taking a speed test in an area that we know the service is not put in. But if you look at something like this is Greater Sudbury. So with it being blue, there's 81 to 90% of all the people in Greater Sudbury can get 50 by 10 service. But for some reason, this red dot is here, and there were 4 speed tests taken, and they have only 4.8 megabits per second down. So there's something wrong there. And we can also work with ISPs to ring them up and say, you know what, we're seeing this kind of weirdness here. Is it because you have something broken in that area, or, is it just that they can't be achieved? The closer you go, the more those, you get to see more and more of the speed tests. So imagine if you run a speed test campaign, and we go back again to French River, like it'll be great to see these dots expand so that we can actually get this information, out to people.
Okay, well, that's great. So I think just to summarize this, I guess, so we're going to move on a bit, but I think that's all very good information for sure. I believe, so if you're saying you're going to send that link to Mark, and then we can put that on our website and do another test and hopefully get more data for you guys.
That'd be awesome.
Okay. So
Perfect.
anybody else have any questions before we move on to the other agenda? Next item on the agenda, I mean? No? Well, I'd like to say thank you again, Susan. It's always a pleasure. And
Oh, you're welcome.
we will surely be in touch, hopefully in the very near future.
Okay, and as always, if anybody has any questions, feel free to give me a shout.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the sun.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Susan.
Bye.
All right. Next item on the agenda would be the 4.2, talk about the highway signage. So I believe the last few meetings we had discussions about putting the very first sign on the highway, which is on 69. I believe everybody has seen it. It was just, oh, there it is. From what I've heard from many people, they really liked it. And I had one guy yesterday tell me he said it looks just fantastic. And I guess the reason why we're having a discussion today is to discuss about adding another one. So believe I'm gonna pass the baton to Mark, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a subject that shouldn't take too long, but as you recall, we had enough funds within the municipal operations and grant funding to install this beautiful sign southbound on Highway 69. The plan was to pick a location northbound on Highway 69. That may take a little bit longer than originally planned due to the construction of Highway 69, completion of the 4-lane. So, the design's already done. It's just basically waiting for a time frame to be able to move forward. For the committee's information, council did start setting aside funds for future signage to be able to complete the project. But going into item 3, we may want to look at updating the signage, maybe smaller, or come up with some mock-ups for consideration that come into the community on Highway 64 from the Living area, and also coming into the community from the St. Charles area. We do have 2 existing signs that need attention and some upgrades, and we're just looking at thoughts from the committee or direction to the committee of what your thoughts were.
So Mark, if I may, so I mean, there's different areas, of course, that we can have signs. I mean, I know for sure. I mean, I can see the one in my head right now. The one on the West Arm area as you're coming from St. Charles is in dire need of a facelift for sure, because part of the sign is anyway, it's not very pretty. But so there's the 2 signs you just mentioned. So this one and the one from Living. There would also be maybe merit to looking at one on 17 coming or coming from either Sudbury or coming from North Bay area. What do we, yeah, we have one, I guess, just west of Hager, I believe, if I recall, right, on the south side. But are we looking at doing all those or eventually?
No, basically, these types of signage can only be in the, where you're actually coming into your boundaries of your community in terms of the welcome signs. The one that's on Highway 17, which we're trying to right now find a contractor to put it back up, is basically the campaign that was done back in 2014 or 15 about Explore French River, if I
Yeah.
recall correctly. So that's a different program, but these welcome signs are usually worked with in collaboration with MTO to depict the boundaries of your municipality and welcome people when they're entering the municipality. So that's why I sort of suggested those two signs on Highway 64 as the 4 areas that we're entering a community.
Is there a way to maybe adapt the same format of that, but maybe at a smaller scale without having them to reinvent the wheel and having high costs of designing and prepping all that?
That's exactly the direction that I'm looking for from this committee, is if they're in agreement to try to keep the same look, maybe on a smaller scale, and see if we can work with TWG again to come up with that concept if you're in agreement.
So what kind of funding are we set aside again? I don't recall so far.
If I recall correctly, I think we bumped it up by another $10,000 at this point in time.
So now we have what now in
reserves, 10,000 off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions or comments on that? Yep, Monique.
I'm just wondering, because the location it's at right now, it's nice because it's on rock. So the bottom part where it says welcome and all that, there's never going to be grass growing. But if we do it at the living spot, and I'm not sure about the St. Charles there, I'm trying to think, I think that one's on rock. Would it be hidden, or like if there's growth or something start to be hidden really fast if we keep that concept?
I can answer maybe.
Yeah,
When I
go
was
ahead.
driving last night back from North Bay, I did see the sign on my way in from in Minettville there, our French River sign. And just around the bend of that, there is a nice flat rock there, big flat rock area that is very close to where our sign is now, but that could sit potentially a sign like that on that side. I don't know about the St. Charles way, but I know out in Minettville that there is a spot that's very close by. And I too like the idea of just scaling it down to a smaller size and see what kind of price. I think that's where we start.
Sorry, Randy.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Maybe Mark can answer, which road has the most traffic visibility on it, St. Charles or Laving? Maybe that'll help make the decision of which way to go to start.
I don't think we have those numbers, do we?
No, well, I don't have those numbers particularly, Councillor Randy, but I would suggest that whether the mock-up and the design will be the same on both, and we can get pricing for installation and then get direction on where to go from there. Maybe we'd be able to afford both. I don't know. I don't have any of that type of, didn't start that work without having had the discussion with committee first. To answer Councillor Renee's question, absolutely. I think it's predominantly our goal to work with MTO, or no, excuse Monique, you're the one that asked the question, in putting them in a location that are easily maintained. For committee's information, Highway 69 being a 4-lane, we can't send our forces on the 4-lane to do any type of maintenance or work or clearing on those signs. But on Highway 64, we can do that with our own forces. But again, if we locate them in a proper area, then there's less of resources required to maintain them.
So Mark, if we go ahead and ask to for this company, I forget their name there, to do the an assessment of both of those locations, would they basically go on site and look at what they're at, or they're just going to do a mock-up and assume that we're going to put it all exactly in the same spot? Because I know the one coming from St. Charles, it's in a great location, but as you go around the bend, I believe there's there's a, if I recall correctly, I think it's a moose sign that was installed there a little while ago, and it's sort of like directly in the same direction as the sign in the back. So.
So
Behind it.
basically, answer your question, Mr. Chair, if the committee's in agreement, certainly Ketin and I will work in conjunction in terms of coming up with a mock-up and start looking at proper locations at the same time in conjunction with MTO. So we can report back to the committee, most likely in the fall, of the results.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? No. So do we make a recommendation here, or we just have a general consensus? How do we do this?
If we have a general consensus and noted in the minutes, I'm happy with that. And when we can make the proper decision, then we'll recommend a formal resolution. But at least it gives us the directive to start doing the legwork a little bit.
Thank you. Is everybody in agreement with that? I see yeses all over. Okay. All right. That's good. Thumbs up. All right. That's good. All right. Any other discussions on this part? No? Okay. All right. The next one, we're going to talk about a tourism app. I'm not sure if it's Mark or Ketin that's going to take on this, but
this one will be Ketin, but I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, we're going to tag team this. So, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this app was a project that Carly started, I believe was the last year, was something that she started looking at. So this project is a website, and the website is called BolidoDiscoveries.com. And what they do is they basically create virtual tours for different communities that want to be a part of this. We were approached, I believe, last year and paid, Mark, how much was it again?
Sorry, I can't see if my speaker's on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Approximately $300, and it's probably $600 that we're looking at now.
Yes, just because we are going to be taking, another municipality has dropped out. So instead of it being a joint effort, it would be, we would have our own virtual tour on this app. And this app you don't need the internet in order to use it. It's just, you download it right onto your phone and away you go. But the thing that we do need is 10 interest points in the area of French River, that then we can create kind of a virtual tour and guide tourists to go to. The areas right now that we were thinking about was the art gallery, because they're planning to create a tourism sector in the back. The trading post, the visitor center, the French River Provincial Park, obviously the snowmobile bridge, which is attached to the visitor center. And I always butcher this name, but I think it's a Meshuggah Provincial Park. Yeah, one day I'll get it right. And then we have two areas that would be accessible by boat, and that would be Recollet Falls and Five Finger Rapids. So that leaves two spots that we need to find. And what I was thinking would be a good idea was maybe to reach out to Doki's First Nation, reach out to their chief, and see if they would be interested in having 2 points showcased on this app. I think that because, French River and Doki's kind of, they're really close to one another. I think it would be kind of neat to have them on board with this and be able to push people in their direction if that's something that they would like. So yeah, I'm currently working on this with this girl. Her name is Marla, and she works for this company. And yeah, if this is something that the committee thinks would be beneficial, we just need to come up with, unfortunately, we are on a short deadline. That is the one thing with this. The deadline, I believe, is June 24th is when they plan to go live, but she did mention to me that if we need more time, that's fine. But I think this would be really a good idea for the area. and to bring, so people have an idea of where to go when they come to the French River. If anyone has any questions, go ahead. I see, Christine, you have one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a limit to how many points of interest you can have?
10, yes.
10, okay.
Yes, originally it was 5, but because we are going to have our own, that has been bumped up to 10.
Okay. Is that a public beach near Albin on Ranger Bay where it used to be, I think
You mean before the big hill?
yeah.
Yes, that's a municipal beach now.
Okay, so that might be one. If I'm just wondering, you know, that might be something if someone, you know, is wanting to access water.
Sorry, don't mean to cut you off, but the thing with this app is that they want it to be like kind of historical. So,
Okay.
like you have to pick a theme, and this is just personally because I like have grown up in the area. I just feel like historical would fit our community just because we have so many, you know, historical spots that we could send people to.
Yeah.
So maybe I like where you're going, but I don't know if that really fits our theme. But it's honestly it's up to you guys. So
yeah, the other two spots I was thinking of was Michelle Falls and Pine Cove area.
Renee, you had a question?
No, I just maybe a comment, the Severin Manette monument that was put up last year. I know there's not much to see there, but they did put up a monument and people can read up about it. So that may be one.
Yes, I did. Sorry about that. I missed that when I was originally saying the points that we have. That is on our list. The Manette, Sidin Manette monument.
Okay. And then so is the French River tourism and the bridge tied in together as one location? Then that would give us an extra spot.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
That would be a smart way to do it. Reaching out to Go Keith would be good.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what we're doing now is we just need to a consensus saying if we want to go ahead with this. And basically the implementation of this isn't all that difficult from what I understand, but it's basically timely for the next few weeks, of course, correct?
Yes, it's not, we come up with the spots and they put it together.
All right.
Basically, we just, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was done. You go ahead.
So basically the decision is to either go ahead or not, which I don't see why we shouldn't. And then our cost is, so this is an annual cost, I believe, or is this a one-shot deal?
I believe it's a one-shot deal, but I can definitely double check that.
And we're basically looking at $600. That's all we're looking for.
Yes.
Okay. Well, anybody have any questions or comments?
And if anyone wants to see examples, the Balado Discovery app has they have all the tours at other places. This is the website here.
Okay.
And as you can see at the bottom where it says Quebec and stuff, if you click on those, you'll see what people have done. It's basically GPS. And like it pops up as a map, and then it gives you different places to go to. And if you click on those places, you can view them. So this is just the one that Mark has popped up now is just for Quebec. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, comments? I'm not sure. I can't see anybody. I can't see everybody because we're.
Oh,
there.
Is that better, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I think it's a pretty good app. Anybody have any questions or comments? Or again, I'll ask the question: is everybody okay with going ahead with something like this? Yes is all around. All right. So what do you need from us, Mark?
I got exactly what I need.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda. Well, 4.4 this is a very preliminary discussion. I know some of us have had preliminary discussions about this, and then we thought we'd put this on the agenda. So we're looking at maybe a multifunctional community center in the Noelville area. I'll let Mark on this fairly quickly, but something that would in the future could probably incorporate many different aspects, like either the library, maybe a police station or fire station or anything like that, to that effect. And it would be important to start maybe looking at the strategy of looking at that over the long period of time, because it's not something we're going to build on in June of this year, of course. So, Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very preliminary discussions here, but it's nice to have community members present so we can bounce ideas off of you. So that's why it's on the agenda. Council has had some preliminary discussions in terms of future planning. There are facilities within our existing assets that are extremely aged and are running out of room, i.e. the Nouvelle Fire Hall, library sections, and there are other potential opportunities with partners potentially looking for locations. So the first step is to have some initial discussions and get your thought processes in terms of council looking at possibly our last strategic plan or long-term planning exercise took place in 2013. We are now in 2021. So it'd be time to start that process again and talk about certain activities going forward and planning for the future, such as these types of facilities. Does that sum it up pretty good, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess that at some point, are we looking at just creating a general strategic plan, or just a strategic plan based on this project alone? And are we planning on maybe putting some money aside for doing this? I mean, there's lots of questions.
What I can say is that council has started a reserve fund for future planning exercises to be able to consult with the general public and getting them involved in the long-term planning process. So yes, there are funds being put aside specifically for this reason. And as these committees have been put in place to bounce ideas off, we just want to get your thoughts in terms of, is it the appropriate time? Is it something, well, it's not an appropriate time with COVID, tell you the truth. But once this is over, would it be the opportune time to start this process over again and look at these types of facilities and talk about their replacement in the life expectancy of some of these facilities and other areas of the municipality at the same time. So it could be a bigger, broader planning process I'm looking at.
So thanks, Mark. So strategically, should we look at maybe doing a preliminary discussion, or not a discussion, but call it a survey, or with the public, and and leave it open-ended, or maybe from our end, maybe sort of give a general direction of what we would see this look like, and then get the input from the public and see how that goes from there. Which do you think would be the better way to go?
Well, right now I'm suggesting, just gathering committee members' input. I don't think it's an appropriate time to sound out surveys or ask questions of the general public within the COVID pandemic situation. But I wanted to start, or I shouldn't say council and the chair wanted to plant the seed in terms of where we're thinking of going and getting your comments, and then maybe come back with more information on how we can proceed and make a recommendation officially to council to start the process.
Okay. Renee?
Did we not already on budget approve $50,000 to go towards a study, Mark?
I think we put aside $20,000 to tell you the truth.
It was 20,000, okay.
As a starting point, yes.
At a starting point. And do we know approximately how much a study normally costs when you do a study of this magnitude? Like any budget?
I haven't done one. I haven't done one in a long time, so they can range from a variety of pricing, and I'm sure Claude has had experiences with these types of studies, Monique as well, in her environment. So depending on what your RFP says and sets out, and the amount of public consultations that you want, and the type of information, they can range between 1520 to 5060. All depends on how grandiose you want to go. But before we started doing all of that legwork, like I said, we wanted to consult and get your feelings and opinions in terms of if you're you think this would be a good idea for the municipality to move forward with.
So I don't know if it's a good thing, but for those of you who are not part of council, I know we've discussed just between us as shooting ideas around council of potentially having a building in the back of the municipal office that would contain the fire department, the library, perhaps the local gym, and other things within the facilities, because we do have a lot of land there. So we were potentially, that was one of the suggestions we had. We all know that the library and fire department have had a fire this year because of electrical, and there's a lot of upgrades needed to that building itself. So is it worth it in the long run, putting more money into an old building? Or do we look at having a different building? Do we look at having separate buildings? So these are all questions that we've been asking moving forward. Something will have to be done in the future. Right now, our gym is at the high school, which does create some of the some problems with COVID and everything else. So these are all things that we have to look at in the future. How do we become more self-sufficient and not depend on other entities within the community to help us keep our buildings open? So that's where our head's been at, I think. So I'm all good to, look into having a study made, but if it's 60,000, we're gonna have to find money somewhere else, or?
I just need direction to start doing some of the research and then come back with recommendations. And in terms of, just for everybody's information, I know the fitness center has been closed down since COVID started back in March. And hopefully with all the new stages that they're incorporating, in discussions with my counterpart at the Board of Education, we can hopefully reopen in September. But we'll have those discussions and finalize the lease agreement to have that move forward. Something the community's been missing for the last 14 months, absolutely.
I mean, a multifunctional center and incorporating all those services would definitely be a positive for the area. And I know some of the discussions we had also would be to envision maybe having an access from the building going directly to Highway 64, as opposed to the ambulance having to come up on our road up in front and going through the school and through the neighborhood. Would probably be an easier access, and especially if you incorporate other services in it, either it could be the fire, police, or anything to that effect, like that, it would be more of a more practical way of launching their services from the building, I guess, or from different buildings. So any other questions or comments? So how do we move forward, moving from here, Mark? Oh, Randy, sorry. Go to Randy first.
I just actually like to hear from some of the public members that are on this meeting today to see what they feel. I think it's a great idea to move forward and plan some new infrastructure. Maybe also we should look at the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund, because there's funding that, although the envelope's closed or closing, that this might fall into. So are any of the public members want to weigh in?
I've got a few comments, maybe just to throw in the mix here. So it would seem to me that a project of this scale and magnitude would be a natural tie-in to a strategic plan. Now, I don't know if those stars and that moon lines up in terms of this municipality, but I would definitely have more of a comfort level selling this if it were tied into some kind of strategic initiative or direction. The other thing, for a project like this, it would be advantageous to do a benefit analysis, and if we're going to go to the public and the community and run surveys, it would be really strategic on our part to have what those benefits might be in terms of, if we're going to do this, well, this is what we're going to gain in the short, medium, and long term. And the last thing, and I'm sure you've probably thought about this, is tie in as much green initiatives as we can into a project like this and lessen our carbon footprint moving forward. So that's Just top of my head, comments that I can think of at this point.
Money, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much in the same line as Claude, and I think that's where Mark was saying too. He needs to do a bit more research because an analysis will be certainly important. And I'm just thinking of backlash we've had on the current building we have, how some people still complain about our taxes and everything. So those public consultation, tying it into a strategic plan will be super important, because if we don't have that community buy-in, if we don't inform them right off the bat or anything, we're going to hear about it for another 20 years. It's certainly, like, I like the concept, I like the idea. I know the fire hall has had many issues and it's extremely important. But thinking back, like when we built when the building, the actual building was built, the library was supposed to be moved in there. And then it didn't go, and there was conflicts, and it was supposed to go to the high school. So it's just to make sure that whatever is planned, that it's well planned out right from the start, and that if somebody says they're going to move in, they are moving in, and that we don't have people backing out afterwards.
Mark?
Yeah, and I excellent comments, and that's exactly what I was looking for in terms of going to the next step level. Maybe in terms of more or less, maybe naming it a vision planning, so that you consult with all of your community and people can bring their different ideas and visions of what they would see the municipality of French River look like in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And once you can get that visioning planning in place, then that gives you your roadmap of where you want to go as a council in terms of major projects as well. So,
thanks, Mark. I believe Chris had a question, comment.
Yeah, just to comment. Certainly with the pandemic, and I really don't know the answer, but my perception is that there are a lot more people, well, certainly because of the travel restrictions, there were a lot more people around in the winter. And I know a couple of people who were in my neck of the woods have decided that they really like it here in the winter, and, did a lot of snowshoeing and that kind of thing. So I'm thinking, a couple of things, but one thing is I think we need maybe some trail development as well as opposed to also building. But there'd be nice to be some more trails in the area. But I think as far as a multi-purpose building, I think we also have to maybe consider what does our community look like in the future. If there's been a lot of people moving from Southern Ontario coming up here, I don't know if they're younger or more, is our demographics getting older, or is it getting younger? And maybe the census will give us more information. But those are some other considerations I think we have to think about. What are the needs of the community? And I think the community is maybe on the verge of, and has started to change a little bit. That's all.
Thank you. Does Sebastian have anything to add to this? I know I know you're there, but we can't see you. So.
No, I think we've had a productive conversation. I pretty much echo what everyone else has to say. Nothing to add at this time.
All right, thanks. Any other comments or discussions on this? So, Mark, we're leaving it to you right now, I guess.
I'll put it on my list.
All right.
Mr. Chair, just maybe if, having Sebastian, and thanks Sebastian for being patient and listening through the whole conversation, but maybe provide Sebastian with an opportunity to give us an update on his projects regionally within the Sudbury East area.
Sure, good idea.
I'm actually working on a report to summarize all of that, since we are closely approaching the end of the CNO term. So August will mark the end of the economic development program. And so I'm just gathering a full summary, and that'll be distributed to everybody as soon as that's done.
Okay. All right, thanks. Well, the last item on the agenda is basically a round table. So I guess it's sort of like a free-for-all for anybody that has any discussions or comments on anything. So I'm not sure, Madam Mayor, you've been very quiet, so I'm going to go to you first to see if you have any comments or questions for all of us.
Thank you. I purposely stayed quiet because it's your committee, and I appreciate all the comments. I totally agree with the comments made by Chris, Claude, and Monique with regards to being really careful about when we embark in such a big project. I think you need a new strategic plan, and unless you have buy-in from your community, it's just not going to work, and it's going to come back to bite you. However, we do need to start somewhere, and so that we could look at funding opportunities for these things that we want to move forward. So it's a little disappointed, the bad news about broadband, not surprised, but people are in our community are hungry for broadband or any type of connectivity. And so I guess we're going to have to start thinking different strategies to see how we can work on getting it. I know that with Susan, she's been doing a great job, and the council has been nonstop campaigning and knocking at MapStudy's door and at the infrastructure doors, and we haven't been very successful yet to get anything, but hopefully we'll be able to do something in August. So I thought Susan's idea of doing the run speed is good. And so perhaps Kadin will be able to put it on our website once we get the information and get more people to do it. And maybe that'll help. But it was a good meeting, and it was nice seeing everybody for a change. So
thank you. Anybody else? I'm just going to go on my screen here. Chris, yes?
Yeah, I just had a question. I was wondering, like I noticed it's nice to see DMC Electric have the big building built, and I think they have quite a few employees, so that was great to see. And I was just wondering, I don't know if the people that bought the industrial park, if they have plans. I'm just wondering, are there any other employers moving in or projects that anyone else knows about?
I'll let Mark answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to give you a brief update on the industrial park, the developers have provided some initial mock-up drawings, which are not public yet. They look beautiful, very exciting, but we still are currently in the midst of an appeal process, and we're hoping to have our first management meeting scheduled for July 6th with the LPAT appeals board, as somebody did challenge the rezoning to have the gas station included as part of the development. No surprise that the developer, the key to his development is the gas station, because the gas station attracts importance, which attracts the gas station, which attracts the other development. But that's where we are in that process, and hopefully we can resolve that issue in the near future, so the developer is still keen on doing that development within that region.
Thanks, Mark. It'll be a very interesting project. I had a little peek of that mock. It looks pretty nice. It'll be a very good project for the area. There's no doubt about it. So, Claude, you're on mute. Oh.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, no other comments, but just an FYI, I did run a quick speed test there, and I did 3x1 a few minutes ago. Not setting any speed records.
Oh, you just added a red dot to the pot. So
just another red dot, yeah.
All right, cool. Monique?
Well, I got you beat, Claude. I was at 0.64. I'm surprised my Zoom works. But I didn't have more comments. I just wanted to say it was nice to actually have an email that we had a meeting. I didn't even think this committee still existed after 16 months. So it was nice to be re-invited and to know that things are still moving ahead.
Randy?
Yeah, a quick question for Sebastien. Is our strat plan moving forward, and when is that going to be tabled? We started this process way back in 2018 when we arrived here at council, and it's still ongoing, I believe.
Are you referring to the municipal strategic?
Correct.
Yeah,
I don't
jump
believe.
in.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
No, that's okay. You start.
I was just saying, I don't believe I have any active involvement in the renewal of the strategic plan. I don't think that was thrown my way at the moment. I do agree with Mark, as he previously stated, that it is due for a renewal. So that is certainly something that should be tabled in terms of getting something updated for 2021.
And just to reiterate, that's part of the reason we were having the discussions, Randy, on the topic in terms of visioning and planning and strategic updates of the municipal plan.
But we did a strat. We're starting a strat plan for the whole area when we first started.
I don't like
council,
calling
correct?
it. To be honest, I don't like calling it a strat plan. I think people, strategic planning and strat planning, people. And I already see reactions. I want to get a little bit more innovative on how we call it and the rationale for it. So,
Thank you.
So Randy, just
Okay,
to
but we started
answer,
something way back then.
we started something the first year when we came in with Neil Fox. So we had our session, if you remember,
Right.
that we went through
okay.
all the different things that we wanted to achieve within the next 4 years. I think if we look at that list, if we go back to it, there is quite a bit on that list that we could be checking off that list, because I think we've done pretty amazing. I think there is still a few little things, if I remember correctly, that we had discussed, but yeah, I think we're well on, we are on the good path of that list. So, but yeah, it would be nice to see that report, just not so much a report, but just to go through that paperwork that we did or what we had envisioned for the future of our 4 years right here. And then like, it's good for us to be looking forward to the next 4 or 8 or 10 years moving forward. So I think we're on a good path.
And through you, Mr. Chair, I apologize. I got the two mixed up. There's the community strategic planning and visioning, and then there was council's goals and objectives that we go through the exercise at the beginning of the year term. And then we review on an annual basis, of which we do during the budget process. And then we either add or cross off some of the things that come to fruition. And for committees, information, a lot of the good things that you've seen in the community come to fruition were based on some of those discussions and some of those goals set by council in terms of how they see projects move forward. So the sale of the industrial park, the beautification that's been going on, as an example, are all things that have been brought to the table by council members in terms of goals and objectives during their terms of council. And I think we had something posted on our website concerning that as well.
Okay.
So I apologize, Randy. I got the two mixed up.
That's okay.
You're forgiven, Mark. It's all good. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, we're at the end. I said a lot. Oh, Chris, yes, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Oh, shoot, I just lost everybody. How did I do that?
We can hear you though.
Okay. Oh, there you are.
We can see you.
Yeah, and this is just a little wee thing, but I wanted to share with everybody that over the winter, a neighbor of mine who's an engineer built a little free library, and I had two of my neighbors who are engineers build the platform and install it on a piece of crown land, which I don't know, I'll ask for forgiveness. Didn't ask for permission. At the corner of White Pine Lane and Dry Pine Bay Road. And I just sent the registration payment to get it registered with Little Free Libraries. And you can go to the Little Free Library website and you can find all the little free libraries in Sudbury, but I couldn't find any in Sudbury East. So the one at the corner of White Pine Lane and Dry Pine Bay Road will be the first. And I am the librarian and custodian, and I could tell you it has had more use this winter. And there's now an Airbnb up the road, and I've seen people that not even live in the neighborhood use it. And just as it's, you know, it was a cheap little thing. Well, I shouldn't say it's not that expensive, and it really added to the community living, especially with people living here year round. So if you're out for a drive, I just wanted to invite you to come. If you want a book to read, grab a book. If you have a book, drop in a book, and that's all. That's all I wanted to say. But hopefully there'll be more in the area, because it really did add.
All right, thanks, Chris. Randy, you had a question?
I was gonna say, Chris, I noticed that the other day. It is quite an improvement over the microwave.
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, I think everybody, I don't think I've missed anybody, right? I mean, I said a lot throughout the meeting, so I don't have anything else to add, other than, so we're back on par, so the committee still exists. So we're moving forward with all these committees right now. So I'm not sure if we're gonna plan on doing exactly like we did last time before COVID hit, but we were planning on doing this on a rotation basis every 2 months. But I assure you we'll be having them at least every 2 months for sure, moving forward. If we're gonna be still doing the Zoom concept, maybe so. I think it works fine, but at some point, meeting in person might not be a bad idea also, but we're gonna have to play that one by ear. And we tried this meeting in the afternoon, just to make it a little bit different, as opposed to having all these meetings always at night. So if some of us are in different committees, you're basically having committees on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at night. So, and it might not be accommodating for everybody, but I mean, I know a lot of different municipalities, Sudbury included, has a lot of these committee meetings in the afternoon, and it seems to work. So we've tried that, and I think so far it was good. And it also gets staff. Well, staff is going to come no matter what, but they're already at work, so for them it's probably a plus too. But anyway, so we're not sure when the next meeting is going to be held, but we're going to do we'll do a follow up with everybody in the short period of time. Unless there's any other questions, I'd like to thank everybody and have a nice rest of the day.
We get a mover and a seconder to adjourn, Mr. Chair?
Oh, yes, I can do that. Oh, everybody's hands up. So I see a mover at Renee, a seconder Claude. Everybody in favor? Aye, aye. All right. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.